Hey there, Agile Adventurer. Just a quick question. What if, for the price of a fancy coffee or half a pizza, you could unlock over 700 hours of the best Agile content on the planet? That's audio, video, e-courses, books, presentations, all that you can think of. But you can also join live calls with world-class practitioners and hang out in a flame war-free and AI slop-clean Slack with the sharpest minds in the game. Oh, and yes, you get direct access to me, Vasco, your Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. No, this is not a drill. It's the Scrum Master Toolbox membership. And it's your unfair advantage in the Agile world. So if you want to know more, go check out scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. That's scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. And check out all the goodies we have for you. Do it now. But if you're not doing it now, let's listen to the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday, the biggest challenge and the biggest coaching conversation of the week. And this week we have with us Havva Sevay. Hey, Havva, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So we heard some great stories so far, but I think there's more stories to come. And specifically today, we want to explore a story that is meaningful for you, a particular challenge or problem you're facing as a Scrum Master. We'll work through that problem together, trying to explore it, come up with ideas or brainstorming potential experiments. So what's the topic you have for us this week, Havva?
For this week's topic is about AI versus real people, because I believe it's a very important topic. It's a day-to-day challenging. It becomes more reality. And I think all my colleagues and myself, we are also thinking about how we cope in a very fast-paced environment, even in an AI world. So this was my topic I will bring up today with you and analyzing.
All right. Well, let's go for it. So how would you describe the topic from today's perspective, from your perspective today, I should say? How would you define what is AI versus real people? What are some of the problems you're thinking about? Maybe some stories of what that means in practice. How do you get your head around that problem today, Havva?
For me, is AI still a tool? For some people, it's an all-around problem solving, which I think that's the danger I still see in some people's head. And they don't I think not really realize, maybe they think real people can be easily replaced. What I did, I really tried with Copilot or with ChatGPT, telling me my story, telling them my patterns. I think they give us very good answer. They give really a solid answer. Whatsoever, I believe people are still unpredictable and people still reacting differently. So they underestimate still real people. So still they need a coaching from real people versus AI. So I believe still it's the realization of the people nowadays.
So what do you think is currently the understanding that people have that kind of conflicts with that view, right? Because you're talking about, is it a tool or is it perhaps something that can solve everything? Maybe, creating world peace. Who knows? So how in your mind, like what's keeping people in that mindset that AI is just some kind of magic, I don't know, maybe even a ring to rule them all, as some people wrote about at some point. So what is keeping people in that, let's call it magic belief that AI solves everything? In your domain, in the people around you, what do you think is keeping people there?
I believe still they put some input on ChatGPT and then they believe, okay, if I put some input, asking questions, they have all around the answer. And maybe that's the thing. As I said, ChatGPT has some solid answer. But what they don't realize, it is still a tool. It can make mistake. It can still hallucinate. What I mean by hallucinate, it means that ChatGPT doesn't realize it can be wrong. It's said, okay, this is for me the truth because it's the input. And if it's the information is right or wrong, people don't really question. So even I have observed how people didn't question about it. One of my colleagues showed me an answer and I said, oh, this is what ChatGPT said. And I said, it's a tool, and internet is a tool. So don't rely what it say. You have still twice check if this is the information is right. So even though a tool is making mistakes, even though ChatGPT and everybody writes the meanwhile,
so let's explore that, because I think that's a very important point. So there's this trend of thinking that AI or LLMs specifically are a tool we can use to do some work, but not perhaps all work. Then there are these people who think that no, LLMs are kind of, the next magic oracle, like in the old Greek times, where there's this oracle in Delphi and you go and it knows everything, right? It can see everything. What do you think is created at work from this perspective, right? Because now we're talking about AI as a tool versus AI as some kind of magic, and then how that affects us as people using the tool. Like, what do you think this contrasting perspective, tool versus magic, is creating in the workforce, like when people are using AI for work?
Oh, it's a really good question. I think with the magic, I think you put a prompt inside, have a specific question, and as I said already, they realize that all the answers. And I think that if you're not really into the topic, if you don't know really the subject itself, you can't really double check if this information is right. So this comes out, and even a person would think, oh, what ChatGPT is right what they're saying. Even if you write a reaction, how can be the possible reaction of a person? How can I solve the problem? Maybe it is more complicated than the tool itself knows how to solve it. So I think a coach would better estimate what the problem is than a tool. A tool is good for the first couple of questions, but I think a real person versus a real person, I think a real person can more analyze, and I think a real person is better trained. And you see also the emotions, you see also the reaction. This is also what people don't realize it.
Yeah. So I totally see where you're going, and I've seen the same pattern. But now I want to take outside Scrum Master and Agile Coach, because I think it helps us also to think a little bit with distance from what is happening, right? Like, so let's say Jeffrey is a leader in an organization, and Jeffrey started using AI a while ago, let's say 6 months ago, just before the big jump with some of the models coming in and becoming much better than the previous models and so on. And Jeffrey just builds content and knowledge with that tool, right? Like he goes to AI and he starts asking questions, and he has some ideas, and then he builds like this massive documents, 50 pages, 20 PowerPoint slides, and then he spreads that through the team, right? Let's say Jeffrey is kind of a team lead or a lead of several teams, and he spreads that through the teams and say, do this is how it should be. I've researched this. I've done my work. I've explored. I know what needs to be done. You do it this way. Let's say whatever it could be. Could be an architectural decision. Could be how to reorganize the teams. Could be what kind of tool to use for tracking bugs instead of Jira. It doesn't matter what the topic is. But Jeffrey just does all of this knowledge work, kind of, fetches lots of data from the internet, processes that with AI, creates this massive document. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you describe it. Here's how you migrate. And then this goes into the teams. And I'm thinking, there's nothing wrong with doing the exploration, with doing the thinking. But I'm thinking, okay, but how are the teams brought into the process of learning? So how do you see that in your work as a coach, Havva? Is that happening? Do you see that happening, that because of the use of AI, coaches and Scrum Masters are bringing perhaps even too much knowledge, too much overload to the team?
I think yes. So even because AI can work very fast, so information, you get your information in seconds even. And I think I'm also worried about that can be an overload of information. So then is the question of which information is important and which is less important.
So how would we, let's think about this in practice. Let's say we're helping a team and they are under this situation where it could be a team member, could be a product owner, could be somebody else is just bringing this massive amount of information and demands to the team because they are working with AI. And of course, the team is also potentially, but the team is busy with the work that they have to do all the day, right? Like, because they have the sprint backlog and product backlog they're working on. How do we help this team to manage to navigate this sudden onset? Could be requirements, could be, changes of tools, could be changes of process, whatever that is. How do we help these teams?
I think also this needs to organize what is our current situation, what information do we need, really to sort out. Even AI can help us, and we're very fast. I give an example for product backlog. Product backlog can be just fit in with everything and everything posted. We have to realize, okay, what is the real need? This is what we have to teach in our teams. What is the real need? What is the current situation? What do we really need right now, and not everything? So instead of overloading with information, we need to filter which information is important now.
Yeah. How would you do that? Because I think this is a place where the tool, AI as a tool, could be incredibly useful. So right now, have you found ways of helping the teams kind of manage, perhaps cope, and perhaps even benefit from this incoming amount of information towards them?
I just first stepped back with my team and said, okay, what is the epic? What is currently the request from the stakeholder? And what information do we really need right now? What can AI help us? So I just said, okay, don't use every information. It's just like the moment. We can use AI. This is not a problem. I believe AI is a great tool, but just to filter this current situation. This is our information. We have a roadmap. We know what is our job. So we can still step back and getting the information which is needed for the moment. I said, don't think about 10 steps now. Don't try to overload with information, just the information which we believe is more relevant than the other information.
And how do you do that in practice? Like, okay, so you're kind of setting the stage, right? Like, understand the need. What is it really that is important in this stage? But how do you get the team on board? And also, how do you moderate the expectations of those that expect to use AI as some kind of magic does-it-all agent?
What I did with my team already, we just had my little board. And then I said, forget AI for 1 second and just we just use the Eisenhower module, say what is important, what is not really that important, what can we leave. So I said, what is for you at the moment? So we just did manually without AI. I said, what do you think? Then they did it, my team, they really used the Eisenhower method. They said, okay, this is what we need that right now. I said, this is exactly the practice we need to do every day. Even though we have AI, use the Eisenhower model.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great way to put it, right? Like there's so many demands. And by the way, it's not a new thing that we are in this case, that we are overwhelmed with information. We've always been overwhelmed with information. Perhaps we could argue now there's even more, but at some point, too much is just too much. It doesn't matter how much it is. It just is too much. And I think this Eisenhower matrix is a great example of how we can kind of stop and take stock, understand, hey, what are the really important steps to take and how do we orient ourselves around this? So I think that's a great practical suggestion to deal with one of the potential side effects of AI, which is overwhelming amounts of information. So thank you for sharing that with us, Havva.
Thank you.
All right, I hope you liked this episode. But before you hit next episode, here's the deal. This podcast is powered by people like you, the members who wanted more than just inspiration. They wanted real tools and real connection to people who are practicing Agile every day. We're talking access to over 700 hours of Agile Gold, CTO level strategy talks, summit keynotes, live workshops, e-courses, deep dive interviews, books, and if you're into no estimates, we got the pioneers of no estimates in those deep dive interviews as well. Agile business intelligence, creating product visions, coaching your product owner courses, you name it. You'll get invites to monthly live Q&As with Agile pioneers and practitioners, plus a private Slack community, which is free of all of that AI slop you see everywhere, and of course, without the flame wars. It's a community of practitioners that want to learn and thrive together. It's the best place to connect with community and learn together. So if this podcast has helped you before, imagine what you will get from this podcast membership. So head on over to scrummastertoolbox.org/membership and join the community that's shaping the future of Agile. And we have so much for you. So check out all the details at scrummastertoolbox.org/membership, because listening is great, it's important, but doing it together, that's next level. I'll see you in the community Slack.
We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.